Hi, this is A New Nigeria with Olawale Oluwade. This is your current affairs program where we critically examine those strategic issues that bedevil Nigeria's developmental aspirations and boldly offer simple, practical, but audacious ideas on building the Nigeria of our collective desires. Today, I have a guest with whom we shall be discussing recent developments from America, where a congressman alleged that a global U.S. body, USAID, has been sponsoring terrorist activities globally. That's what we're looking at today. And without further ado, my guest, a brief introduction of my guest. Navy Commodore Kunle Olaomi retired. He was former Deputy Director of Defense Administration. He was Commandant Defense Intelligence College and also Deputy Defense Attaché to France from 2003 to 2007. Currently, an Associate Professor of International Relations and Diplomatic Studies at Chrisland University, Abeokuta, Ogun State. Prof, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Nice. Yeah,
it's been a long time we've been planning this.
Yeah.
We've been planning this for a long time. Anyway, nice to finally have you. And without much ado, because we don't have we only have about 25 minutes, and we have quite a lot to cover. Let's get right into it. Last week, like I said in my intro, a national firestorm was ignited when U.S. Congressman Scott Perry made the grievous allegation that USAID, the Global Development Aid Organization, has been sponsoring terrorism in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and he mentioned Boko Haram in Nigeria. Now, first off, this guy, Scott Perry, is a renowned conspiracy theorist. I need to put that there, you know. And then I also realized that not many serious media organizations, either in Europe or America, took him serious. So apart from him, no one has said that. But however, in Nigeria, both conventional and online platforms, it's ignited a firestorm. Like I said, everybody has been talking about it. But I just realized that there is no better person to speak on this subject than yourself. So, General, can you tell me what's going on? What do you think about this? Make a sense of this for us, please.
I think generally what Perry said is not something that is fundamentally flawed, as people try to make it to look. People try to patch it up and say, oh, it's flawed, it's a conspiracy theorist. But I think the question we should be asking us is, what are the antecedents? Are there facts in the past that we can point to? Look at what happened to the Mujahideen in Afghanistan when the Americans were having issues with the Soviet Union. We know what happened in Iran, the Contra affair in 1980. We also know what happened to Saddam Hussein. Is it Libya we want to talk about, or the Kurds, in Syria? I think the Americans have always been sponsoring this kind of narrative. And to try to placate it or paint it or make it look politically correct is a travesty itself. Americans never deny the fact that their national interest supersedes whatever you call your own national foreign policy or defense policy. I believe what Perry said, maybe not as exaggerated, but there's no doubt that the Americans have always been having interest in West Africa since the ECOMOG days, when Nigeria did something that is fundamentally surprising to the whole world. Nigeria was the first country in the world that embarked on a peace enforcement that was so successful in Liberia and Sierra Leone. The Americans were asking us, how did we do this? Since then, they've paid attention to the rising of Nigeria. And I won't really want to say that what Perry said is a conspiracy or is a theory that we need to wish away. These are facts, and I think we should begin to look at how Nigerian foreign policy, defense strategy, and so on can be shaped to benefit the nation. Let me just stop there.
Okay, General, I'll be interchangeably calling you either General or Prof. Both of them are your designations. So now, if I get you right, you are saying essentially or substantially what Congressman Kerry, the allegation isn't, we shouldn't dismiss it with a wave of the hand, that there is some substance in it. But and I know, most of our viewers know, the USAID is a developmental body set up after the Second World War and has been carrying on all sorts of human developmental intervention issues. Even in Nigeria, the issue of antiretroviral drugs, infant maternal mortality, and so many others, in all these, I don't want, developing nations, because we shouldn't say third world countries. So I am not naive to think America or even China or Russia don't sponsor this kind of, what do you call it, espionage activities, even against themselves, to talk less of developing economies. But to outrightly say that the USAID is sponsoring terrorist activities in Nigeria, I find that a bit off-putting. I find it, so strange, because that's a weighty allegation. Prof, make sense of it for me, please.
Okay, to make sense of this for you, I've just listed some past deeds of the United States.
Okay, sorry, Prof. Maybe what I should say, or as an addition, what does the United States stand to benefit in bringing Nigeria to its knees? What does America stand to benefit seeing Nigeria unravel? Please, make sense of it.
Okay, first of all, most of the mentions I did, actually were done by US AID also. So you just need to go back into history in the 80s, in the 90s, and you see their activities, It's not really something that is hidden, except we want to really behave like ostrich and say, oh, maybe we want to pretend this is not happening. What do they have to gain? A lot. If I want to start reeling them out, it may take a lot of time. But I think the most important thing is that, the United States, they have interest in some of the geopolitics, in West Africa. Totally in Africa, but let's just focus on West Africa. And there are other major actors in West Africa. Like the Chinese are here, the Russians are here, the French, the British, and most ways the Americans try to insert themselves in this kind of environment is by maybe try to trigger some of this insecurity system and try to come in as the savior, when you talk about counterterrorism or anti-terrorism activities, in West Africa. It's just to be able to allow them. They were in Niger, they were in the Sahel. They have UAV sites everywhere. If the issue actually, go down, then the United States have no reason to remain in the Sahel. They have no reason to be there. And there are a lot of mineral resources that is up for grab in that area. There are other reasons that I think I want to adduce, which has to do with, when you say war against terror, it's an opportunity for big powers to be present. They have bases. Look at what is happening in Somalia, Yemen, and some of those, the Horn of Africa. West Africa is also an area they want to play. And if there's no reason to be there, why should the Americans come here? What reason would they give to be here? We know their presence in the Gulf of Guinea and some of the exercises we do together. But how do they give excuse for their presence in the Sahel or in Maiduguri, where we don't have a crisis there? And that's why this crisis has been protracted for about 15 years now. But let me say something on this program. for people to, I don't want us to make a mistake saying that the Americans are doing this to us. And everybody goes to the market and says, oh, why should they do it? We should investigate it. We should, you know, go to ICC. We should do this. For God's sake, there are two parties to what is happening in Nigeria. The party A is the Postal Intelligence Service. Let's say the CIA, the MI5, Mossad, whatever you call them. Then the party B are the domestic subversive organization in Nigeria. There's no way Americans can do what they're doing if there are no Nigerians.
Brilliant points you raised, Prof. Let me come in at this point. This point you raised. Let me just interrupt you. Pardon my interruption. Let me come in. This domestic angle, for me, that's actually an aspect I want to drill down on. You know why? Because speaking about substance now, August 2021, you granted an interview that went global. You know, I don't want to use the word viral. It went global, where you directly alleged that you were disappointed at the way former President Muhammadu Buhari was handling the war on terror, you know, and you said specifically, quoting you now, that you spoke to General Onishakin at a meeting that the center of gravity, you know, were the local sponsors, the Nigerian sponsors of terrorism. That the way, the kinetic approach that worked in the Niger Delta palaver would not work in this because of the dimension of, you know, that the center of gravity of terrorism in Nigeria has, you know, the element of local sponsors. Now, in that interview, you did not mention the names of these local sponsors. So I'm asking you now, giving you this opportunity, General, do you still believe this allegation? And are you willing to name the names now? Because you said some of them are in the government of Buhari, they are in the Senate, they were former governors, and all of that. Can you please let Nigerians know? Because I would also link it, the Emirati government list out the names of 38 names of global sponsors of terrorism. Out of the 38 names, there were 6 Nigerians mentioned. So if we don't unveil the identities of these people, the evil will continue. So, General, what do you say?
Yeah, you can see, you see me laughing. You know, I like when journalists, you know, push this kind of narrative. So give us their names, you know. Yeah, there are legal implications, you know, when you just come on air and start naming names, okay? What I will tell our audience, it's not like I'm afraid to name names, okay? But there are legal implications if you start naming names. Somebody can sue you to court from giving his name, then the onus will be on me to prove and to start getting documents, which right now I still don't have access to them, okay? So we have to be careful. What is important is that these names are out there. The Dubai government, they have the list now. They give us. The Interpol, they have it. The CIA, all this, they know. Even our own security agencies, they know. You remember when Kennedy was killed, almost more than 50, 60 years ago? They kept some of this information until Trump just came now and said, okay, let us you know, declassify it. I want to tell our audience they should be patient. The names will be known. You know, it's coming gradually. I listened to some pundits that said that, oh, Nigeria should set up, you know, DIA, NIA, they should come up and investigate this. Let me tell you, they cannot. Quote me. Because USAID is big. It's even bigger than Trump. Watch after some time. You see that Trump is going to resign on this decision, one way or the other. USAID is big. And the Nigerian collaborators, pardon me if I say this, are they not the one that is going to direct the NIA, the DIA, and the SSS to investigate? If they investigate the USAID, are they not going to expose the Nigerian counterpart that are aiding them? Or are you going to tell me that Nigerians are not aiding them? Americans will not just walk into a labor market and start doing things now. They use Nigerians. So the domestic subversive organization among us will never allow this investigation to take place. It will never happen. And if it does, you will see that names will start flying everywhere. And the people that are, supposed to, focus on this kind of investigation and exposure that you are asking me to name, they are there. They are going to be indicted one way or the other. So this investigation is not going anywhere. Nothing will happen.
Wow, that's a weighty. That's very dire. What you're saying is very dire and very does not give any hope. Now, Prof, as we drill down further, the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, just last week was denied Canadian visa. Could this be linked to his outspoken, the stance he's taken on, coming out publicly to, as it were, saying there are foreign organizations sponsoring terrorism in Nigeria? Is this linked in any way to the denial of visa? And take this also together because we're running out of time. Time is flying. I don't know why. This year's budget for defense and security, last year, 2024, we spent 58 billion, rehabilitating so-called transformed terrorists. December alone, we spent 8 billion. Can you please explain to Nigerians why our government is spending taxpayers' money reforming or rehabilitating so-called transformed terrorists rather than prosecuting and jailing them or meting out the law? Can we ever come out of this? General, can we ever get out of this mess that we're in?
It's going to be very difficult. Once you get into this loop, I call it a loop, it's difficult to get out of it. There are so many reasons, geopolitical reasons, economic reasons, and issue of ethnicity, nepotism. It's difficult because it takes different forms, and many interest groups will just jump into the pool. So it's going to be difficult. But to speculate as to why Canada refused, the CDS, who is a very somebody I'm very fond of. For me, we cannot speculate. Most of these things they are bordered on intelligence, and you may never know the exact reasons. I work at the embassy sometimes. Between 2003 2007, and I know that sometimes we reject some of these things based on intelligence, that we got, and there's no way we can tell the world this is the reason. But just know that they have reasons, and they have the right to deny visa to anybody. Even some head of state, some presidents are banned from going to certain countries. So I don't see it as a big deal. We have all the trappings, the diplomatic avenues to explore why they did that. And if we are not satisfied, there's reciprocity in diplomacy. We can do the same to them. We have more than 25,000 Canadians that are in Nigeria. We can also make their stay here maybe unsettled for them. So there's reciprocity. You do something like this, embarrassing us, then we can also do the same to you, irrespective of the reason, because there are diplomatic processes that Canada could have, followed.
Absolutely.
They decided not to do that.
Absolutely.
And embarrass them. And I think that's not acceptable in international relations. There are conventions that guide some of these relationships.
Absolutely.
And I expect the Canadians to know better than did what they did. There are processes, there are no verbal, there are Ministry of Foreign Affairs that talk to each other. Absolutely. They can just write or send a message to them that for this reason, please, they don't need to make it public. For me, what they did is not acceptable in international relations.
Absolutely.
It's not.
Okay. I want us to tidy up on this issue of terrorism sponsor and all of that. What we have spent in the last 10 years on defense and security budgets is actually going to tens of trillions of naira now. There is an allegation out there, unverified, just an allegation, like I said, that we haven't seen commensurate, results, to the colossal sum that has been spent in the last 10 years. Almost 100 trillion, or maybe between 60, 50 to 100 trillion naira on defense and security expenses? Have we gotten commensurate results? And then a rider is that certain military fat cats, I know you are one, even though I know you left some years ago, a few military fat cats have grown really big, they've grown large. They've fed fat on this, and some military contractors as well. What do you say to this, General?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that is known to everybody, that there's a lot of corruption when it comes to defense contracts, But, it's not as simple as to make it look. It's not like the military men. I was in the system. Maybe they just give you allowances. They don't bring cash and dash you money. They can, maybe the allowances and travels and so on, you can benefit.
Are the military funds probed, General? Does anybody probe military spendings? Do they probe defense spendings?
Yeah, that's where I'm going. There's what we call Senate oversight responsibility. Yes. I don't know why people don't understand how the defense system works. The general, like the CDS or maybe the chief of army staff, they don't touch the money. Do you think CBN just pay money to their account and they are feeding fat?
But sir, you and I were in Nigeria when the cash. You and I were in Nigeria. There has been several chiefs of either army, chiefs of Air Force that have been alleged to have siphoned or stolen huge sums of money. Former chief of Air Amosu, late Alexander Bassett, chief of Air also, later on CDS, Alexander Bade, who was shot. Colossal sums of money were stolen under several military. There are military directors, directors of admin, directors of finance, who have been alleged or found culpable or complicit in huge financial scandals. What do you say to this? Is this allegation unfounded, totally unfounded?
No. See, you're not getting it right. This oversight responsibility is supposed to put a check into this. That's where I'm going. I'm not saying that people are not maybe caught with some, there's corruption everywhere. But if you have the oversight responsibility, how should Bade have access to such money? Because in the civil system, Nigerian military are subservient to the civil authority. We can push our budget. It is approved by the president or by the Senate. Yeah, and there's oversight responsibility as to how it is spent, who award contracts and so on. What was happening then is an aberration whereby a political class connive with the military chiefs to just misappropriate the money.
But sir, you and I know the state of our National Assembly, not just the National Assembly, even the state's houses of assembly, the state of oversight duties. But I think we'll leave that. I want us to touch on, because we have about 6-7 minutes to go, I want us to touch on something very important, which is also linked to this whole gamut of insecurity enterprise across Nigeria, which is an allegation you made that this whole religious terrorism, banditry, insurgency, and all of that is also tied towards an Islamization agenda, that certain people are hell-bent on Islamizing Nigeria. In fact, you use the word that until they dip the Quran in the Atlantic Ocean, they will not stop. And my question to you, because I find it quite strange that someone of your standing will make such an allegation. I watched a couple of videos where you said that. Because how can anybody Islamize Nigeria? We're a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural nation, 250 ethnicity, almost 500 different languages. I mean, across all the regions, there are intermixed, of religion, of language, or whatever. I mean, the Yoruba that you and I belong to, in our families, we have Muslims, we still have traditional idol worshippers and all of that. So my questions are, how can anybody Islamize or, in the same breath, Christianize Nigeria? Amongst the Yoruba, the greatest leaders of Christians in Nigeria, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, Bishop Oyedepo, Reverend Kumoyi, name it, Reverend Uma Okpai, just all the biggest churches belongs in this. So how can anybody Islamize or, in the same token, Christianize Nigeria? Prof, can you shed light on this?
It's happening now. Look at what happened in your state recently. Oshun,
Ekiti,
Kwara,
Ondo.
it's happening. It's not about whether I'm saying, oh, how can it happen? It's happening in your lifetime. You are alive, and they are pushing Sharia from Sokoto to. I said they are going to dip it at the sea, and I meant it. And maybe I won't be alive after a while. Yeah, if this video is on, people will say, "Oh, I said it." They're going to dip it at the sea. They've got into Oyo now. Makinde is fighting tooth and nail to get rid of them. They are already in Ogun State here. I remember the governor of Ogun State was shouting that no, we are not going to accept Sharia here. It's going to happen. It's not about what I'm saying, it's what is happening. Look at what is happening. Don't talk about the theory of conspiracy.
General.
Physically, look at what is happening at bushes. Please allow me.
Okay.
General Togun is my friend. He was shouting a few days ago. They're all over the bush there, and they're going to use force. And if force is not happening, they will try to go through the Senate and all those stuff. They're going to Islamize this country. So if you like, continue to speak grammar, continue to rationalize things, continue to imagine that you're a secular state. Why should government be sponsoring people to on religious pilgrimage? When you wrote it in the Constitution that this is a secular state, what is your business spending billions to sponsor people to holy ground, whether Christian or Muslim or whatever you call it? Why should government get themselves involved? Even though that they are stealing the money through that means. If you see a secular state, and every year you must sponsor a pilgrimage to either Mecca or to Jerusalem, what are you doing?
Let me ask you, General. Let me ask you, sir. When I thought about this question, I also thought of the fact that in President Obasanjo's administration, when Sharia was introduced by Governor Yerima, Sani Yerima, I think that was his name, of Zamfara, and President Obasanjo dilly-dallied, dragged his foot on whether to go, with the full weight of the law, because the 1999 Constitution expressly forbids state religion. And Sani Yerima, governor of Zamfara at that time, introduced Sharia into Zamfara. And President Obasanjo, in my opinion, failed in clamping down to nip that in the bud. Because it was after he said, oh, it was advised that it was a political Sharia, that it was fizzle out. Rather than fizzle out, it spread to almost all the states of Northwest and Northeast, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct in my proposition or my idea or my thoughts that President Obasanjo's failure to clamp down on that, to nip it in the bud? What do you have to say to this? And I'm asking you again, also, give me more reasons, because the introduction of Sharia aspects of Islamic legal jurisprudence, is that sufficient to say they are going to Islamize? Because when you say Islamize, that means I, who is standing here, who could pass for a pastor, I would become a Muslim. Is that what you're saying? You, I know you're a Christian, would you accept? So take that first question about how President Obasanjo enabled, the introduction of Sharia Islamic jurisprudence into our legal system against the 1999 Constitution provision expressly. What do you have to say, General, as we round up?
Yeah, I think that your first question is misplaced, because that's not really what happened. It's completely different, because when you talk about, when you say against the Constitution, of course, they have inserted it into the Constitution before Obasanjo was sworn in. I don't want to talk about this issue. There might be time for us to discuss, okay? I mean, when you talk about the personal aspect, when was it introduced into the Constitution? When was it?
That Nigeria is a secular state. No, there is no state religion in Nigeria.
No, it is in the Constitution that they can practice Sharia on a personal level.
Yes.
And you have to really go back into history and find out when Obasanjo was sworn in, and whether the Constitution that we are using now, whether it was existing in the real sense of it. It's deeper. The question you're asking is deeper than you think you want to put it. If I want to talk about that issue, it's going to bring a lot of challenges here.
Okay.
It's deeper. The issue of Sharia, Yerima, and so on is deeper the way
Okay,
you look
the
at
next question I asked you was that, is there anybody able to
it.
Islamize, convert all of us to Muslims, or convert all Nigerians
Of course,
to
I've been
Christians?
repeating this thing now. And one thing I like about internet is that it does not forget. I've been repeating these things for the past 3 years. And I made an example of Turkey. You are saying that you're a Christian, you're a pastor. What does that mean? Turkey was 98% Christian. Constantinople. Today it is 100%. Let me be fair. Let's say 98% Islam. But a country that is 90% Christian, go and read your Bible and find out where the followers of Jesus Christ, where they went to when they left. Those places were Christianized that time. Now they are completely Muslim. And you are saying that it cannot happen in Nigeria because you're a Christian, because you have Oyedeko somewhere. It will happen. And I've been warning. For me, I have very little time to live on this earth. I'm already above 60. So it's not really my call. You understand? It's not my call. It's for the young ones that are coming up, the unborn children, that they will be born in a place like Afghanistan, like Pakistan, where they be beheading, cutting people's hand. I mean, where you see somebody will steal billions on camera and is walking about, and somebody will steal a goat and they will cut his hand. I mean, these are the kind of things I'm preaching. That's why I'm warning. Somebody will not cover his head. They will behead you. And I'm saying that we should be careful, and you are proving to me that it cannot happen. What we should do is to take steps to ensure that, you don't find your unborn children in hell. Already Nigeria is a hell. This is hell. Now, I don't know how hot you want it to be.
Okay,
Don't say
General.
you are Christian and you have Oyedeko and somebody they cannot Islamize. Constantinople and some other places I don't want to mention. If I go into history, you'll be shocked.
General,
Morocco to
definitely.
Nigeria, all those countries in the north of Africa, there were black people there before. They wiped them out. Go to Argentina, there were black people. They wiped them out. Go to Australia, New Zealand. They wiped them out.
General,
saying they cannot change.
This conversation cannot this time frame cannot, allow us to do justice to this conversation. Maybe not too long, maybe in another 4 weeks or so, we should come back and explore. I'm interested in this Islamization agenda of Nigeria, because I know even amongst the Northwest, Northeast, embedded in those, so-called deeply Islamic regions, there are Christians. There are other traditional worshippers. But we're not taking that today, General. I must thank you for coming this afternoon. I really thank you, sir, for your thoughts and your ideas that we have exchanged this afternoon. And like I said, we should do this again pretty soon. Thank you so much, General.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, that's the end of the interview segments. Like I always say, change requires action. Positive change requires positive action. I believe in a new Nigeria, and it is possible. Now, follow me on my various social media handles, TikTok, Hex handles. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can watch this particular episode, the full length of it, and all the other ones that are there. Drop me your comments. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you next time. My name remains Olawale Oluwade. Bye for now.